Hey guys, welcome to Cricket Fanatics magazine, and we're live once again with another podcast episode. A very special episode because our first time ever co-host Lesego's on the show with me. So welcome to the show for the first time.
Thank you so much, Khalid. I'm so excited to be part of the show. But firstly, I want to say Happy Women's Day to all the women that are joining in. And also, I'm excited to hop on to this conversation about all things women's cricket.
Yeah, so this is going to be an awesome conversation because we're not going to just talk about necessarily cricket alone. It's also women in society. Obviously, you being in the media business, that's also an amazing thing. And I want to get some details about that as well. But let's start off with, how was your weekend?
How my weekend was? Oh, my weekend was a bit busy. Did some grocery shopping. And also we've got some guys fixing the wall at our house. So it's construction work. It's sand everywhere. It's busy. But on my side, it's been in the midst of all the busyness, I've been nice and good. I'm in a good space. So yeah, I'm good. And how was your weekend?
No, it was great. Basically planning this podcast because we started a new thing now where we're going to do news. So basically, I'm going to do news videos. I don't want to bore people with too many news articles. So what I'm going to do is basically I'm going to summarize everything, and then in a video every single day at about 6 o'clock, and do a live show and interact with the fans about it. So that's how we're going to do it going forward. So it's a lot of planning. And a lot of, I don't know if you're a football fan, but I was doing a lot of refreshing on Twitter with regards to United's new signing that we're supposed to get. And I was speaking about to Dinesha about it earlier on because she's also a very big Man United fan. So I was just refreshing.
I saw that you guys on the previous podcast, you both had like Man United t-shirts on, right? So you are huge fans. I saw that. No, I'm a cricket girl. Not much of football on my side, really.
Okay, that's awesome. So just to the fans, before we get started and introduce our guest, just give them a brief history about you and how you came into the media business, etc., and a little bit more about you.
Well, where do I even start? Let me start with Baker's mini cricket because that's where we all start, right? With mini cricket. So I think that's how I got introduced to the game, outside of the fact that, I had a dad and brothers who are too much into the game. They love cricket so much. And so I first got introduced to cricket through them. And then luckily the schools that I was in loved cricket. So there was participation from my side when it came to mini cricket in primary school. And then in high school, I was part of the girls cricket team. And I think that was one reason why I chose the school that I went to, is because it had a strictly girls cricket team. And so I was part of that, and then moved into playing for Northwest cricket team. And that's when I met the likes of Tasman Brits. I once played with Tasman Brits, and yes, I need to throw in her name there so that you guys know that I too was a big shot at some point. So so played with Tasman Brits, was part of Northwest structure, and then but in my adult years, I chose to study media studies at Boston Media House, and that's where my love for media and communications stepped in, and I worked at a 9 to 5, but at some point I was sick of it because I literally just wanted to get into the cricket broadcasting space, and I think I made this decision in 2018. And 2019 was when I started getting opportunities within the cricketing space. So that's when I did, MSL play a draft. That was my major big opportunity. Live event. It was scary, but I managed to, play my part and do well. And then just still working myself within the structures. I've been doing some virtual awards for CGL and quite recently amateur awards. So cricket is my life. I love it. I've loved it since I was young, and I'm looking forward to continuously just growing within the space. But that's me in a nutshell.
That's exactly why I needed to get you on the show. So to celebrate Women's Day, of course. Now, this is a podcast that I've been wanting to do for a long time. And it was just about the timing and getting all my ducks in a row, and do it with consistently well over a period of time, because this is something that is not going to just be once off. It's going to be continuous. And I'm hoping that that not only that you will be able to join us on this podcast alone, because I want you to join us on future podcasts where we talk about men's cricket as well. So it's going to be a continuous growth, I think, over here. So let's start by introducing our guests, because I think that we're going to get an insight to cricket in a completely different light, I feel. And I think because of the two guests that we have here, I know I've spoken to both of them before, but since then, they've been on their own journeys since the last time we spoke. So it's a great time to catch up. And I think it's an amazing opportunity to give young girls and young cricketers in general great insights into the game. So I'm going to start off by introducing Dinesha. And then we're going to introduce Faye. So first of all, welcome to the show, Dinesha.
Hi, Khalid. Hi, Lesego. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Hello. Hi, Dinesha. Why are you laughing?
No, it's great.
I also don't get it.
So, Dinesha, let's just catch us up quickly with everything that you've been doing lately and recently, since the last time we spoke. Yeah, as basic as that.
Oh, yeah, I think the last time I spoke to you, I've been working out twice a day, and now I can't even work out twice a week. So I've been struggling with that department. But yeah, lots of studying going on. I just completed the Gary Kirsten cricket course, which was the Coach Ed over 12 weeks, which has been fantastic. And now I'm still currently doing competitive intelligence and analysis with Cricket South Africa and Northwest University. So that's been good. And, I had the privilege to work with the Protea ladies. I've been invited on a camp, and I've been there for a week in Pretoria, and that's been really successful. So I'm just glad that I got to start coaching again, because I'd be worried about my mental well-being if I had to stay locked down again.
So, Lesego, is there anything specific that you want to ask Dinesha before we get going and introducing Faye?
Yeah. I think, the Gary Kirsten Academy, I'd like to find out a little bit more about that, because I follow them on Instagram and I see the beautiful work that they're doing on the coaching side of things. And how was your experience regarding that?
Oh, fantastic. It's been brilliant. A lot of people ask me that question, and, I feel like a different coach. Definitely more professionalized, a lot more diligent as well. And it acts as a blueprint for me. I mean, it happened over 12 weeks. It was an online course. Every Thursday we had a lecture, and we had brilliant guests on the show. I mean, just to name a few, we had like Daniel Vutori, Justin Langer, Anil Kumble, Puff Duplessis. Yeah, so it was fantastic. I can't fault the course at all. It's definitely beneficial. But yes, what a 12 weeks. It was brilliant.
Yeah.
So you walked out a better coach after that?
Definitely.
Yeah.
Much better.
That's good.
Yeah. I'd like to think so.
So, I mean, obviously, we know about your appointment as the under 19 women's coach, and it's the first time ever that that's happened. So, can you maybe talk about the women's game side of things and what you've been doing with regards to that? Has your team gone back into training yet? Have you started planning that yet? Have they given you the go ahead?
Yeah, unfortunately not. We cannot train at the moment, because what we're working with now is just contracted players, and unfortunately not yet. And I say not yet because it will change in years. So the under 19s unfortunately can't train, neither can National Academy. But some of my National Academy have been invited to the Proteas camp, so I'm glad I got to see them a little bit. But unfortunately, just some coaching education and lots of fitness for now. And we can only hope, that times get better and that we can get on the park again.
So,
Dinesha, quick question. So how are you guys monitoring the ladies and their fitness levels? Because, I mean, they're all in their respective homes, right? Are you able to monitor them effectively?
Yeah, definitely. We use an app called Cricket Clinic, and we have an assigned fitness trainer that helps with the SN 19 girls and National Academy, who's also the same strength and conditioning coach for the Protea ladies. So there's some consistency there, which I like. And yeah, there's this great app. It's called Cricket Clinic, and it tends to it sees your workloads, so it'll obviously flag you if you're ready to push on further or maybe take a break now and then. And I think that's a brilliant tool, because that's always been difficult to monitor in the past. But I think with that tool, it's gotten much better.
That's good.
That's insane. So if they're listening, they can maybe give us a sponsor to future videos. Wink, wink. So guys, I'm going to introduce Faye Tunnicliffe next. And Faye, just give me a thumbs up if you're ready over there, and we'll bring you back on. So
I'm nervous.
Faye, how are you doing?
Hello. How's it going, guys? Oh, sorry.
Yeah, so it's
I'm
quite
good.
interesting
I'm really
because
good.
it's quite interesting because I mean you've been back into training. So can you maybe give us some insight into that and what that's been like?
Yeah, look, it's been tough because to try and find that consistency in lockdown was pretty difficult. But then now that we found out that there's something to train for, I had a lot more motivation with my training, which was really cool. So that was mostly fitness, and then skills wise, it's been amazing to get back into practicing skills and actually picking up a cricket bat. I'm surprised I could still do that. But no, it's been really good. And then obviously we were at the camp last week, and that was really cool. I mean, it was just a week filled with cricket, which I think is what a lot of us have been gagging to do for the last 4 months. So it's been really good to get back into it. And I was quite surprised with, muscle memory and stuff. And it didn't go too badly.
And I mean, you're talking about camp, so tell us about how that was. I mean, with the COVID-19 restrictions, I mean, everybody's wearing masks, everybody has to practice social distancing, and now, I mean, we know that cricket is a contact sport. So, I mean, how was that experience?
Yeah, that was weird. I mean, because the normal thing to do is after training, you go and sit with your mates and go and have a smoothie or something. And we couldn't do that. We had to have breakfast in our rooms, have lunch in our rooms, and dinner. Yeah, and I'm sure Dinesha can tell you as well. We were training in groups, so you would sort of see another group on the other side of the field with your mates, and then you're training with a bunch of your friends as well, but you can't integrate. So it was quite strict, and having to sanitize before you touch a cricket ball, that was the weirdest thing as well. If we did like fielding sessions, then we'd have to sanitize our hands and then go into the session. And same with going into like skills in the nets or something. It was the weirdest thing, but quite an experience. And not being able to put spit on the ball, I mean, it's such a norm.
Of course, for all the bowlers. Yeah.
Exactly. To non-cricketers, that could sound really weird. Like, why would you spit on the ball? But no, we couldn't do that.
So did you use your sweat?
No, actually, I just kept my bodily fluids away from the ball.
Okay.
They're using sanitizer. That's what they're using.
Oh, yeah.
Everybody's going to carry a bottle of sanitizer next time.
We actually, when we arrived, we got like this big bottle of sanitizer and like sanitizing hand wipes. Honestly, I've never sanitized a room so quickly. I got in there and I was wiping every surface down. Like, COVID is not coming for me.
So let's get into this a little bit more. Okay, so obviously today's Women's Day, and we want to talk about these sort of topics. And I want to ask you about. Obviously, Faye, you came into the scene very early, and Dinesha the same way. Dinesha has a lot of experience, obviously, in cricket, playing different levels. And Faye, you're starting to get that similar experience now, playing different levels too. I mean, you are a complete all-rounder. A lot of people won't know that she's not only a batsman, wicketkeeper, bowler, she's also a musician, etc. And she's a writer for me as well. So like it's insane. She can do everything. But let's just get into the women's game at this moment. So Faye, since the first time you walked in, I just want you to maybe give us some insight into how it's grown since then. And then Dinesha, after Faye's done, you can maybe give your thoughts on that.
Well, with the since I sort of came onto the international scene, I think I got in at a really good time because the women's game was growing quite significantly at that time. But I mean, if we look at, say, we use the mark of the 2018 T20 World Cup, and then we look at this year's T20 World Cup at the beginning of this year, the skeptical was like, it's so much bigger. And Australia, they pumped a lot into that. I mean, they had Katy Perry playing at the final. And so that brought in numbers. It just has grown the game so much. I mean, we look at the women's IPL is now taking off as well. They're changing the format from the Super League to the 100. And I think that's going to bring in a lot of youngsters as well within their pipeline. And then within our country as well, I think the Super League that is lifting off the ground now, it's also allowing a lot of youngsters to play alongside international players, which a lot of the time you don't get that opportunity because we have the provincial setup. But if international players are on tour, then youngsters don't get to play against the SA players. So I think with the Super League allowing that integration between players, there's a lot of motivation for youngsters there to sort of see the level at which you can play and the level that you can aspire to. So it's taking off and it's growing on a yearly basis.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to talk about when I started. Goodness me, that was a long time ago. But I tell you what, when we started off, obviously we weren't contracted at the time, so you're playing for pure passion and pride for your country, and you still have to make ends meet. So obviously I still had to try and study and get to training and try and maintain a balanced life. But how times have changed, eh? And I still think about when I first got selected. I had this top, well, it was our plain shirt, but it got to my ankles, so it was like a dress. But but now, I mean, obviously I retired in 2013, and then I got back into cricket, and then I got a tailor before the World Cup, and she's like measuring my shoulder length, and it's like cut stuff, and I'm like, I'm not used to this kind of stuff. But yeah, it's grown so much, eh? But having said that, I still believe that there's so much room for improvement. Not to be a pessimist or anything like that, but we have made strides. But I honestly believe for every single girl that picks up a bat and a ball, we've got to have some foundation for them, and it can't only be at the highest level. It's got to be provincial, and it's got to be some pride or some recognition when you put on a green and gold jersey, or if you're at the National Academy. And that's where I want to see it go. I want to have a sellout crowd here in South Africa for a Women's World Cup, or even for a series. And the main thing for me, it's got to be glorified, and you've got to start putting resources in it. But not to be a pessimist or anything like that there, but it has grown a lot. And it's so nice to see that the youngsters that's coming through probably don't have to face the same difficulties that we did a lot earlier in my career. And they can solely focus on their skill, which is very important for me. So you don't have to worry about, career choices and that sort of thing. There is still a little bit of that because, there's only a certain number of contracted players, and that's up top. So there's nothing provincially. But we, as a federation, we've got to start taking away the factors away from performance. And we've got to take it away from the players so when they go on the field, they can solely just focus on their skill. Cricket South Africa has got a PDP and a PPP. I know that's a lot of P's, but they've got this. They've got this in place, which is a great start. But I still believe, we can get better, and we're always going to get better.
Yeah, that's incredible. So, with regards to that, I just wanted to ask you, what sort of strides what sort of things can we put in place? Because Faye will know as well that at a provincial level, still there are a lot of girls still playing for the passion of the game, and they're not playing for pay. To be able to get that motivation going forward, it's quite amazing. And I think that a lot of people should look up to that. All types of players should look up to that because that passion for the game can kind of just disappear if you're getting money. So to play from a young player's perspective, what can we do more to improve and to take that to create the love of the game more fluently through the system?
Yeah, great question. And if you're talking about young players, just think about social media. These kids love social media. Now this Instagram, please, I'm maybe borderline social media, like I just know a little bit. But these, they know everything. They do fancy apps and this and that. So I'm thinking, let's start giving women recognition on social media. Let people know about the game, because I think that's really important. And then also there's got to be it's little things like incentivize a lot of, if you make 100, or if you get a fiver, or if there's a match winning performance, or how about getting a trophy or something, or having a small match presentation after a provincial game. I mean, it's small things like that that makes massive difference. And I know how the unions struggle. I mean, sometimes the fields that we play on, it's not even club cricket, and it's unfair. It's really not fair. And then if I have to really go into detail and be a little bit nitpicky, I mean, if Western Province plays with boundaries of 55 meters and KZN Coastal plays of 85 meters, you're defeating the purpose, because a lot of selection is done through stats. So maybe a cricketer or a batter could have missed out on 30 more runs. I don't know if you're trying to, if you can understand what I'm trying to say, but
yeah,
it's like consistency.
Yeah, just that consistent, and it's also that there's some of the matches, like ladies are playing with 2 balls, so on either end, and then the A-League wasn't, and there's just things that we can get better to be more professionalized. And I'm not even talking about contracts yet, but let's take care of those in-house activities first, and let's be really professional at that. And then let's produce better cricket so we can get sponsors to come on board, because I think that's a massive part. And Khalid, while you're on the topic, I mean, isn't that the easy part? I mean, well, the hard part is actually to get someone motivated and say, let's do this. But remember, if a girl is still playing for her province, still working, still trying to make ends meet, I mean, that's gold. That's gold. So if we can just see this as an opportunity, I promise you we'll produce not better cricketers, but better quality cricketers and better performances.
And for you, Faye?
With what Dinesh is saying, I completely agree. And I think there's also a big stigma around cricket still being a boys' sport. And I think it's that education within primary schools where they're not sort of saying to girls, it's okay to play cricket. This is a girls' game too. Girls can play cricket. So it's all that stigma. And I know there aren't many schools that do have girls cricket, and if there is a school that has girls cricket, then they don't have another school to play against, so they're sort of playing within the school. And then at provincial level, I mean, people that are still playing for the love of the game, it's sad that it's kind of rare. I think there's a lot of people that want something from the game as well, but I know that there are a lot of people that do play for the love of the game, but it's rare to find those girls that sort of won't say, but what can I get out of this? And I do understand that it gets to a point where if you're training 5 or 6 times a week, you're giving up your time. I mean, if people are working jobs from 9 to 5 and training starts at 5, they have to leave work an hour early. So they're losing that. So it's understandable. But yeah, I think it does start in the pipeline. And I think once you have gotten something from the game, like a paycheck, or Dinesh, you mentioned a trophy, then people almost want more of that, and then they'll allow themselves to slip, but then still demand these things. So I think it's those people with the love for the game that will change the game, because regardless of what they get from the game, they're still going to play because they love it. And that's what we need more of, and that's where we need that passion to be built from a young age for girls to pick up a bat and ball and say, I love cricket, because I think that's also not happening, because other games are taking priority, like I don't know, netball or tennis, or the normalized female sports. So if we can get cricket on the map for girls at a young age, I think that's where we'll win, and then we can create that pipeline. I mean, if you look at a country like Australia, their under 19 players are contracted, and because they've been brought up in a way that cricket is normalized, and it's normal to play cricket as a female.
Yeah, so Lesego, you hearing that, and obviously you being in the mini cricket system as well, you'll know about building that passion. So maybe you can take over a question now and to the ladies as too.
Yeah. Yeah, I think I fully agree with Faye because I was fortunate enough to come from the structures of mini cricket. So luckily I was part of a school that had mini cricket, and they opened it up to both boys and girls, and so I was quite fortunate in that regard, and so I was able to build on the skill and the talent, and I think I've just got a follow up question for Dinesha. I know Faye touched on the Super League, and we know that this started 2 years ago, for the women particularly. And so I want to understand in terms of skills and talent, Dinesha, where are we in terms of, women's cricket? Where are they in terms of their skill and their talent? Are we in par with the Australians or any other cricket playing country?
Yeah, I wouldn't say in par if I'm being really honest. Because I do believe for you to have a world-class outfit, you got to put world-class resources in, and that's what Australia has done really well. But I tell you what, in terms of talent, the girls are definitely on par there. Because I mean, if you look at our recent performances at World Cups and series, is that we a good outfit, but we just lose it here and there based on maybe marginal gains, and I think that's where we lose as a unit, and where we can be really better. Um, that I was part of those two legs of the Super League, and you know what? I've seen fantastic cricket. Depending, I mean, if you look at the conditions we played on and the shots that the girls played and how they read situations and conditions, I thought that was phenomenal, because that's what we lacked a lot when we played at the game. Is that we weren't really good students of the game, but I'm seeing a lot more coming, especially with the younger girls, is that they want to get better, but there's also a process to it. So if you can't understand your skill, it's very difficult for me as a coach to coach you that skill. And it's something that's I'm massive on my coaching. There's a lot. You have to be a student of the game first, and then let's get better. But yeah, in terms of talent, I think we're really up there. But it goes back to my point, is that I don't want to lose this gold mine, because girls have to make career choices, and you don't blame them on that. It's just the way it is now. But yeah, we've got a lot of talent here in South Africa.
You spoke a bit
So
about
don't-
the World Cup. Can I get into the conversation about the World Cup? I mean, there was interference with the rain, and maybe you watched it from a coach perspective. I'd like to hear your thoughts on how you assessed that particular game.
My goodness, I think that still hurts me. It's so close yet again.
It is painful.
We were
No.
playing against each other on that day. On the day of the final. Do you remember? Or the semi-final. You remember that?
Yeah. Gosh, it was painful. I probably will put my coaching cap on here. But we did
Yes.
lose. I've mentioned it earlier. We did lose it in the marginal gains or so. We lost maybe a wicket where I felt we should have maybe seen that over off, because we've got what we wanted from that over. Look, there was a miss stumping, and it's very difficult. I'll be very critical to just blame it on that there. And look, there was certain things that should have went our way but didn't, and that's cricket. And sometimes you love this game so much, but sometimes just work with me and it doesn't.
Yes,
But you know what?
we all know that.
But you know what I love about it is that you've gained experience and you've gained loss or learnings that's only going to make you better. And we can say so close, so close, so close, but I promise you that day it's very soon. I just think it still hurts me. I don't think I want to talk about this yet. I'm not ready to talk about it.
Yeah, Dinesha, don't worry. My heart was so broken on that day. You don't understand. Like I almost, in fact, I probably did shed a tear. I can't believe I'm even saying that to everyone, but it was really painful. So I understand if you don't even want to get into that discussion.
Thanks for your understanding.
Yeah, no, I remember that day clearly. I was at a Cobra's. They had a behind closed doors game against each other, basically, before they picked a squad for this particular game. And I was at Western Province Cricket Club, and the game was on TV. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching it, and I'm like, we are looking on Faye, especially you, Faye. I want to ask you, especially because there's people in that team or girls in that team that are friends of yours. Someone like Nadine de Klerk that bowled phenomenally. She's come onto the scene and she's really, I mean, I know you've had that conversation with Claire. I've had that conversations with Claire where she's always spoken about Nadine very highly. And can you maybe give us some insight into that? How did you have to play that type of role and console some of the people that you are friends of yours in that side? And did you have some conversations to find out what they actually went through and what went through their heads mentally?
Well, you get a player like Nadine. I mean, I think the first match we played together for Western Province, she took a fifer. And the first thing she says when she sort of came to the circles, we were celebrating with, she's like, "Sheesh, I just love this game." And I was like, that's what it's about. And then I saw her for a training session. I think it was the first time I had seen her after the World Cup. And that was like now after, sort of after things that we were allowed to start training again. And I just said, what was going through your mind? Because you looked so angry. And she was like, no, I just was doing what I had to do. And she played well. But yeah, so I mean, some of those girls, when I watch them play cricket, then I'll get really excited for them because, you know, those are some of my close friends. But then I sort of watch them as a cricketer, not really as a friend. Yeah, but that game, like, I could only really sort of watch the replay because we were playing against KZN, so we couldn't watch it live. And so I think, you know, at every opportunity we'd sort of run up to the change room. There was a TV in the change room. We'd run up to the change room and check the score. Yeah, I mean, it was unfortunate about the rain, but a part of me does sort of think that mentally the World Cup was set up for Australia to win because I think they knew that it would have put women's cricket on the map. And that could sound sort of harsh of me to say, but I mean,
again, we can't help this in South Africa. Sometimes this happens. I mean, I had an interview with someone where my whole network freezed and I was supposed to be the host of the show. We're talking about a serious topic and I got removed from the whole conversation. So these things happen, I guess. I want to talk to you, Dinesha, about that mental side of the game. So while we wait for Lesego to come back, I'm just going to, Faye spoke about it there. And it's quite tricky because I'm saying, especially when you have a young team like the Proteas women have, I mean, they have to kind of look for leaders all around and they have to look for leaders everywhere. So now we did a recent issue of Cricket Fanatics magazine where it's all about leadership and it's not necessarily about the captain. There's leaders in the side that are not captains of the game as well. So just talk to me about how you as a coach can speak to these young players in situations like that, because it would have been heart-wrenching for any player to lose the way they did because it wasn't 100% in their control. As well as when I remember speaking to Sunay and Nadine about it, they went into the into the game kind of thinking, look here, we probably will go through automatically because of the rain and etc. Because of where we are, we obviously will go through to the final automatically. But then all of a sudden they say, okay, cool, game on. Now you need to switch your mentality and say, okay, look here, we need to go out and perform. And then they did. I mean, I think they put on a brilliant performance and restricted Australia amazingly. I mean, it was quite tough to ask that with Duckworth Lewis for them to be able to chase that down in the amount of balls they got. But how do you as a coach switch that mentality?
Oh, yeah. Great question. And I like talking about stuff like this here because I spend a lot of time on the mental side of things. Yes, cricket it's a technical sport, but I do believe you can win as many battles as you can mentally. I think the first thing for me is leading up to that World Cup. You have to create an environment where it's okay to fail. Well, I don't like to use the word fail, but maybe it's okay to grow. But in order for us to grow, we've got to be uncomfortable and we've got to get things wrong. So once we create an environment where it's okay to have these honest conversations with each other, then it's very process orientated for me. Is that it's very individualized because you'll have your certain KPIs, you'll have your team's KPIs, and then obviously the build up to the World Cup, you will have to put these things into place, which will obviously help you have strategic decisions when it comes to team selection. And then once you have all of this in place, I think that leadership role is so important of keeping the girls on track. Because, I had a couple of conversations about it, and I said, there's going to be a match. I'm telling you, we're going to play. And everyone's like, not a chance. We're going to get through. We're going to, and it's just that mental shift that could have affected performance. But it's so difficult to measure. It becomes something that maybe I wasn't as ready as I could have been. And that's why it becomes so important. And it's like you said, it's leadership in the team and leadership from a management level. But it's also that player management and man management that you have to have, especially when you're in a big tournament like the World Cup. It's got to be on a consistent basis, and you got to review this all the time. Where we are, where we want to be, what can we do better, where we haven't been. And, we got to start having conversations like that. And the main thing, I'll say it again, is honesty. And we've got to be brutally honest because we can grow in that environment. You shouldn't be in an environment where you're scared to say something. So you want to speak your mind, have people listen to it, and then come to a consensus. I mean, that's how most successful teams thrive in. And I think once you get all of that much better, then we can start working on like a mental preparation model. So a simple thing like, what's our controllables, what's not? So what we can control, let's do that brilliantly, and make the girls aware and say, you know what, if we achieve this and we get it wrong, then we just weren't good enough. So we need to go back to the drawing board. But it's not to just put the uncontrollables one side. We still have to be aware of it, and we've got to prepare very well for those uncontrollables. I mean, we couldn't have predicted how the things turned out. But we've got to be aware of it. And something I like to call situational awareness is that I know what I can do. I know if A doesn't happen, I'm going to go to B. But there's also, we're playing against another very good world-class outfit, but there's certain things I can't control. And once you let go of that and understand that this is me and this is what I've been training to do and execute it, but it comes back down, Khalid, to that environment that I spoke about. If we create that environment where we say, you know what, girls, this is what we want to achieve. Let's work towards it. And if we don't get it, it's okay. Because a lot of people can break when, there's sometimes there's this miscommunication or expectations aren't clear. And it's a simple thing. It has nothing to do with skill. It goes back to that leadership. And it's just small things that, well, I feel, I mean, I wasn't part of the squad leading up to the World Cup, so I can't speak for them. But I mean, I can only imagine how heartbreaking that was for them. And
especially how well they did against New Zealand prior.
Yeah, of course. I mean, that was such a high, gosh. And I just think, if we do those little things well, they have to add value. I'm not going to say success, because it's very difficult to measure success when you're working in high performance tournaments like that there. I mean, the result is one thing, you win or lose. But for me, I'm massive on, if we've done 25% better than last World Cup or where we were in our last series, then isn't that success? So obviously I view it a lot differently. But it's so important to have these things to add value to where you want to go. I hope that answers it.
Faye, anything you want to add to
that? No, just I think like from, I've worked a lot with Dinesha, and that's something that you're quite big on as well, as leaders that are not necessarily, just the captain. Leaders that are on the field, whether it's performance based or just going up to a youngster and giving them a pat on the back. And I think those dynamics within a team are so important, because a captain can only do so much in a team. They can't win the game for you. That's up to the other teammates. And you mentioned that communication and honesty within an environment. I think that is what makes a winning team, is those discussions before or after a game. It's not because during a game there's emotions and there are thoughts that are going through people's heads. So you might not always say something that you necessarily mean, but then you go off the field and people take it incredibly personally. But if you have that honesty in the change room before and after, then people are going to be a lot more understanding. I mean, whether it's at national level or provincial level or club level, even like if a youngster walks into the team, it's a new perspective, because it's easy to get caught up in an environment when you've been there for so long. So if a youngster comes along and says, but this isn't necessarily working, then it allows people to take that step back. But if a youngster comes in and can't necessarily do that, then that change isn't going to happen unless a very sort of heavy-handed person comes in and says, you need to change this, that, and the next thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because what I want to ask you is something specific with regards to leadership. Now, obviously, the whole magazine was surrounded by leadership, and was the whole magazine was themed around leadership. What I want to know is, are you able to? How do you build new leaders? I mean, generally speaking, people say you either are born with that quality or not born with that quality. Can someone develop that skill? Is it something that you can develop?
Definitely, yeah. I think my view changed on it as well. Because I tell you what, especially working with people, and it's such a complex thing, and it's such a beautiful thing as well. But you know, they always say, like, you want to be the type of person you are at home. Now, if I'm touring majority of the year and I'm not bringing out that person that you are at home, we're gonna hit walls all the time. And it goes back to that the point that I made about creating an environment where this has to be your home, you know, and it's living like a double life. And that's the worst thing you can do, because that affects your performance 110%. Because now you try to do things not the way you're comfortable with and not the way you used to. Now, I know it's difficult because there's different personalities, there's lots of diversity, which is beautiful in South Africa, and I think it needs to be embraced, but that's another topic. But you know, I do believe that you can create an environment where we can have that honesty, because that's really important. And maybe it's not leadership as in I'm standing up now, I'm going to have my say and I'm going to drop the mic. It's not that. It's not that type of leadership. It's being in a position where you can add value, because what you're saying is based on experience. And once, because we're touching on experience now, so it's something I felt. And because it doesn't get spoken often about, people assume that they feel it themselves. So once we can start creating conversations like that, leaders will come through and add in value, or maybe different thinking, because that's something I really like, is that just to add a different way of thinking. I mean, you know, and it's a simple thing. Say we have a bowlers meeting and we're talking about lengths, or the areas we're getting hit at. And maybe someone will see it differently. They'll say, yeah, but the reason why maybe we bowl that length is because we've been this specific area, we've been bowling wider off the crease or closer to the crease. And that's what I want. That's the type of conversations I want, because that's leadership for me. You know, at the end of the day, yes, someone's got to go out there and toss and's got to take charge of the ship. But if we can start like creating like little goals or little strategic thinking within ourselves, I promise you, leadership becomes something that you are at home, because that's what it is for me. You know, we can talk about leadership, and you know, we've got to be like this and we've got to be like that, and that's fine. But let's be yourself, and let's see how that's going to add value to the team, because that's leadership for me.
So I want to say one thing before I give it over to Lesego quickly. It's something that is a lesson for everybody to learn, and it's something that I picked up when I went to a training. And Faye is an example of this. And don't get all smiley and shy now if I say this, because I don't think you know what I saw. So, for example, I'll give you when I was at the training session, you'll notice that with a lot of players, this happened at MSL as well. When I went to the Paul Rocks training, I saw how guys like Dwayne Pretorius, who are not captains, players that are in the team that are not captains. I've spoken to a few women's cricketers who spoke about Marazan Cup, how she leads the side without being a captain of the side. That her intensity, the way she trains off the field, the way she eating patterns, the way she is outside life, motivates players to want to be on the same level as her. Now, I saw a particular net session where it was Laura, Faye, and I can't remember who else was in the nets next to them. There were three batsmen. Oh, yeah, it was Andre Globerard was also there. And Faye was batting with a certain intensity, and I was watching Andre and I was watching Laura next to them, like look at her and then say, okay, cool, I also want to put the same amount of intensity into my batting. So you get inspired by the players based on how they are performing as also around you. And I could see that that's also a massive factor in leading. So I don't know, Faye, if you notice that around, maybe you get motivated by people that are next to you, or know that other players also get motivated by you in the changing room or in the training sessions.
Well, I think in a team environment, it's important that you, A, have the ability to motivate your teammates and be motivated by them. And that's where, like, it was a really hard decision for me. I had to obviously change from Boland to Western Province. And one of the things that I was told when the most senior players left, I was told at the age of 20 that I would be the most senior player in the team, and that I sort of had to lead the team. And I'm like, I understand that completely because it's a very young team, but I was at the stage in my career where I just sort of gotten into the international setup, and I still wanted to learn from people. I couldn't be, especially if there's players that are the same age as me, expecting me to sort of teach them, because a classic example is Laura. We train together very often, and I'll sort of bounce off her, and then the one day I asked her a question and she said, I don't know, I'm 21. I was like, it sort of brings you back down to earth, because she's experienced as heck, but she's still 21. And one thing I actually wanted to ask Dinesha is, like, what do you gauge experience on? Because if I go international level, I'm not very experienced, but then I go down to club level and they look at me and they think I'm the most experienced player ever. So it's like, how do you know if you're experienced or not?
Oh, Faye. Oh, now you turn into the host now.
You see.
You're getting too good at this, yeah.
I'm sorry.
I think it's a simple one for me. Experience for me is based on the performances and value that you add for the team. So experience is exactly what it is. It's what you've known and what you learned. But like I'll give you a personal example. A lot of players will disagree with me because I've been in the setup for so long. But I've played from 2008 to 2016 with 2 breaks in between. I wouldn't consider myself a senior player, or I wouldn't consider myself as an experienced player in the context of the game, because I didn't have too many match-winning performances. You understand? But maybe I was experienced in the sense of what I've learned apart from my skill itself. And maybe that's what led me to coaching. But the big thing for me, and what I think it's important, is that it's not measured by age, and it's definitely not measured by the amount of games you play. If I can see marginal gains that you improve in, and obviously so the first one's player growth, is that you improve in and you get in better. And the second thing is, how much value are you adding to the team? Because that's a big one for me. And if it's, if it was a 20 that we needed to win the game, maybe it wasn't the match winning performance, but that's experience for me. And that's just the way I view it.
Sure.
Okay.
So we kind of have put you in, well, CSA has put you in probably the most important role possible with regards to that. And I think they can have no better coach to be able to take them to the next level on that particular case, because you are, from the interviews that I've done with you and from the conversations we've had, I can tell that the mental side of the game is very important to you. So, Faye, Dinesha as a coach, being in that environment with her, and Dinesha might want to close her ears for this one, because I know she's going to be all blushy about it. But what is it about Dinesha that really stands out with regards to that from the coaches that you've worked with?
Dinesha and I have spoken about this. I'll tell her straight out that there are a handful of coaches within this country that I really trust my game with, and Dinesha is one of them. And it's a bonus that we get on a personal level. But I just think that her outlook and her coaching philosophies, and not only coaching philosophies, just your personal morals and your values, are kind of, I feel like ours are fairly aligned. But you're big on the person and the player, because you know that if a person outside of cricket, if they're not doing well, then they're probably not going to do well within the game. And that's one thing that I really respect. And I think whenever I'm playing under you, then I just feel like I can express myself when I play. And I mean, even when you're coaching, then it's a conversation. It's not dictatorship. You're not saying do this, and you create that persona that allows me as a player to question why we're doing things. And you'll sort of say, try this. If it doesn't work for you, try something else. So you sort of give an alternative. But I'm not intimidated by you in terms of what you say goes, and that is so important to players, because you don't just want to be told what to do. You want to question that and have that conversation. And I think for me, that's the coaches that I really do trust is coaches that I can have a conversation with. I think I turned around to Claire the one day and I said, I want to bat left-handed. And she said, why? And I said, because. And we sort of had a conversation about it. And that's one thing that I really respect about Dinesha. And I mean, off the field, I can talk to you about pretty much anything. So it's also that security that you bring to a team environment. And I mean, if you look at the Super League, you led our team to win both legs. And that says something about you. Even you had an assistant coach change, but you kept that consistency in the team environment. And I think that's what you create. You do create a winning environment because you have that mentality of, well, let's talk about it. And that's so important.
Yeah. Actually, let's talk about it. The name of my new show, by the way. So thank you for name dropping that one, Faye. So, I'm just gonna give it.
Guys, get to the conversation.
Lesego has been hit by Wi-Fi issues, and this is not her fault. So, guys, please do not get in the comments. Yeah, Wi-Fi got corona. So I'm gonna give the reins over to you to ask a few questions while I surf through the comments over here, and then when you're done, because I'm gonna give you an opportunity now to ask all the questions that you never got to ask because Telkom needs to sort their crap out. So anyway, so let's over to you.
Khalid, how did you even know it was Telkom?
I just know these things.
Wow. Well, I've got a couple of questions around coaching. So, I mean, you've got 13 years experience in your coaching. So what was that moment when you decided that you want to go into coaching?
Oh, difficult one again. And I get asked this a lot because now I say different answers all the time. Now I'm trying to be consistent because, look, so I played and I studied and I had a promise with my dad that I have my academics up, and so I studied, and the first one was a BCom finance and the second was a BCom HR, but I wasn't getting the same gratification that I did on the field, which was massive for me because I'm such a, I don't know how to say it, like a soulful person, and I need to feel good and I need to do things that makes me feel good. And it was just cricket. So I think in 2015, when I obtained my level 3 certificate, I was still playing at the time for South Africa. And, a few of us will go hit balls or, do have a fielding session amongst us. And, at that point, I've seen the value that I can add. But even to then, I didn't think it was something that I wanted to take on really further. And then just the more I did it, the more I fell in love with it. And we all know, falling in love with anything is like one of the best feelings ever. Like I fall in love with food every day. So it's like that with cricket. So it's like that with cricket. Wow. And I mean, I'm so blessed, to be honest. I'm so blessed and privileged to be in a position that I am in now. And I'll openly say this. I've never been one for monetary value. It's just got to add value to me so I can be a better human to someone else. And cricket does that for me.
And I want to ask about your leadership style. I mean, we spoke about leadership. There are bits and pieces that I did miss and others that I got to catch. What would you say is your leadership style when it comes to coaching?
Oh, I'm very
mean. So mean.
You see, she's answered me now. I'm going to be demoted now. I think Faye mentioned it as well. I'm very person orientated. I can't expect results out of the play if I don't know you as a person. And when I say as a person, I don't just mean cricket. I'm very big on, outside but like what's happening outside your life, but it has you. It's so important, and I think this is where most coaches get it wrong, is that it's easy to have the conversation, but once that human element or that heart is out the conversation, it's very difficult to connect with the player. So I've got to keep reminding myself, the first thing that I'm doing it is not because of results, and it's not because of cricket. I genuinely just want to know who you are and what you bring to the table in life, and that's the first step. And I think when it comes to coaching, I'm very process orientated. So I'm very massive on marginal gains, which is probably a bad thing for coaches because you get fired if you lose all the time, because no one looks at the marginal gains that comes with it. So very process orientated. I love player growth. I love that, each session we take away one takeaway or one nugget and we're growing as a player. That makes me so happy. So yeah, like I like to tick boxes in the sense of what's relevant to the team. So I don't like to do these fancy KPIs that's not relevant to the team I'm working with, or I'm not going to go and find some motivational speech that I need to say to the girls, because I do believe motivation is driven first by the coach, and I've got to live by that values and morals, and then I got to instill it in my girls. And once I get that going and we get process driven practices, we get marginal gains, and I'm still connecting with you as a person, and I think in a nutshell that describes a little bit of my philosophy and also a little bit of the way I go about my business.
Okay, all right. Last question on coaching. Do you see women coaches cross-pollinating to men's cricket? Because we find that it's pretty normal for, let's say, Coach Hilton to be coaching the women's team, but I haven't seen women cross-pollinating into coaching for men's team. So do you see yourself maybe coaching a men's under 19 or moving into coaching a Proteas men's side? Is it something that you see happening?
Yeah, 100%, definitely. I don't know if you heard about the story, but before my appointment with the SA Under 19 and National Academy position, I actually applied for KwaZulu-Natal's Under 19 cricket, the schools team, which is actually a massive week, and I was shortlisted.
Sure.
That was fantastic because I just wanted to startle feathers, I felt like I wasn't being challenged as a coach, and I felt like, why is that I have to make a step like that there to also take women's cricket forward? Because I feel like if I can add value so much in this spectrum here, I want to do that. But definitely, obviously for myself, I definitely want to coach a male side and may be the Protea men. Because at one point someone had this conversation decades ago about women playing cricket, and look at where it is now. So maybe if I can just be that spark or start in that, I would love to be that, to leave a legacy where girls take on boys teams, and it starts as simple as coaching first under 11, under 13, get your level 1, level 2 coaches there, and create a culture where it's I'm not a female coach, I'm a cricket coach, because that's what I'd love to see.
Just on that, Dinesha, didn't you coach that? There was like a KZN league. Didn't you coach one of the teams there?
Yes, Faye, I did. I had the pleasure of working with her.
You weren't mentioning things, so I have to.
There's no stone left unturned here. Thanks, Faye.
Yeah, anytime. There's lots we could talk about.
I feel like I have 3 hosts here.
That's actually why I'm here. Surprise.
But yeah, I had the pleasure of obviously, I was assistant coach to the Pietermaritzburg Spurs, which won the Durban Premier League, which has been fantastic. And just the feedback from the guys there, it was definitely a cap in my feather. Although that sounds so cliche, I don't know why I said it, but it was. But yeah, it was really good. Like someone like Robbie Freiling or Calvin Savage, to pull me aside and just say, what do you think about this? And you're like, kind of like gather it for a little bit. But also when you have time to reflect, because it's so important to reflect, right, Faye? And after we
What I
reflect,
do.
and then after we reflect, and then it's like, you're actually in a position, maybe people are just, it's not because you're female, it's not because of that, it's just because you have good knowledge of the game and you want to grow the game. And a lot of my talks is also now like, I don't like to use the term women's cricket. I want to be in a position where we just talk about cricket, and if we say the men's side is playing here or the women's team is playing here, because that's where you want to get. And I would love to see coaches come through and you do that same, have that same sort of mindset when it comes to coaching.
Okay, so I'm gonna get into the comment section so long, and ask you some questions that have been posed over here by the fans. So I think that one I'm gonna keep for later. This one is something that is interesting. Is the women's team more likely to clinch their inaugural World Cup instead of the men's team? What has the women's team done better with regards to culture and the realm of the team?
Faye?
Look, I think that every team has things that they can work on in order to take that next step further. And it's that like, what are you willing to do to get there? You can turn around to a 10-year-old and say, do you want to win a World Cup? And they'll say yes. It's the same with, like, you can ask an international team if they want to win a World Cup and they'll say yes, but what are they willing to do that backs up that yes? So I think it's those little changes. And within the women's team, it's evident that we can get there, because we've been in 2 semi-finals in the last 3 World Cups. We're not talking about 2018. That was not a great year. But in 2017 and this year, we were so close to the finals. And Dinesha talks about marginal gains. I mean, we were so close. So there's no reason why the women shouldn't clinch a World Cup. So I think now the World Cup has been postponed to 2022, the 50 over World Cup. So it just gives us that little bit of extra time to work towards it. And I think I don't like to compare the women's game and the men's game, but I really do think that it's the team that makes those changes first to allow them to have that winning aspect. So it's the team that changes that's going to clinch it first. I can't really say if it's going to be the men's team or the women's team. I'd like to think that it's going to be the women's team, but maybe I'm biased.
Yeah, just from my side, I'll say this year we have a very good foundation to win a World Cup. And it's a little bit on actually a lot on what Faye said. It's just, what are we willing to maybe use the word sacrifice or do differently to get there? And, as a unit, are we willing to get there? And that goes for both male and female. But I've got a strong feeling that the women will be the first to lift the World Cup in South Africa. Yeah.
Happy Women's Day.
Yeah, I think a lot of people actually think that, to be honest. It's looking that way. Happy Women's Day, indeed. So for Ravi again, this is a great one. My daughter has displayed some talent with the bat at 3 years of age. While it's early days, what is the process of getting her involved in school and ladies club cricket? They grow up so fast.
That's so cute.
Yeah, they definitely do grow up fast. I mean, I have my niece here, and she's 4 now, and she talks to me like she's 18, but it's okay. But yeah, look, I think it's so important, especially at that age, a lot of motor skills. So you want to get, your natural running ability, and if it's cricket specific, it can be actually like just a genuine thing of throwing, and then it's a tricky one because you got to look at the state of women's cricket at the moment, and obviously you want your kid to do really well. But as a dad, I'm asking you to love her and love that passion that she has for the game, because I think that's a massive thing for me. And then obviously you can, eventually go into private coaching and stuff. But we were working with ages like that. They let that love and that passion come through and try and leave technique out. Because, I think so often, especially, and I see it a lot at under 13 girls week, is that we teach a girl how to defend. So that's a first shot. But now the ball's not going off the square. Now that they're in the field there, it's 30 overs and they got 40 runs on the board. Like that is just, we don't want to go there. So just encourage, So just encourage her, flair. Oh, like have your X factor, and that'll develop as you play. But just have that type of flair where, you love the game, you enjoy the game. It's not putting so much of pressure on you where it feels like it will affect the outcome, which is your performance. And now I'm talking a bit elite level, but just if you want to hit the ball, hit it as hard as you can, and hit it wherever you feel. If you want to hit it there, then by all means do it, because we can start training the mind, the body, everything, just to enjoy the game and knowing that everything is possible. Because always, I don't understand, and I know I'm speaking a lot, just mind me. I don't understand why because a defense is such a technique. It's such a technical element to the game. Because in Test cricket, guys got a defense. They earning lots of money, but they still get bowled through the gate, right? There's so much of effort going into that, and then we just miss the whole point of have the freedom to play and hit the ball and learn, because that's what we're missing, and that's what I want to see. I know I drifted away from the question, but I hope that answers a little bit of it.
And Faye, for you as a young girl growing up, what was key to that for you? Because you actually lived that. I mean, you were encouraged to play, and you got to live out and play and live your passion, basically.
Yeah. Well, for me, initially I had to fight my way into playing cricket. So I started off playing like in primary school. I lived in like a small town, and we literally played cricket sort of in a side field. And I played with the boys because I wanted to play cricket, so that's what I was going to do. Then in primary school as well, Khalid, I think I told you this story when we were when we had the call the previous time. And one of my guy friends at the time said, no, girls don't play cricket. So I said, okay, tell the coach I'll be at the next practice. And that's pretty much how it started in primary school. So like I pushed my way in there. And then I just wanted to hit the ball as hard as I could. And then now people want to teach me to drive on the front foot and this elbow needs to go up and whatever. I was like, but I just want to hit it. Like I want to see if I can get it over the ropes. Honestly, I still kind of play like that sometimes. But yeah, I was just enjoying that. And Dinesha's so right. Just that passion for the game, like let it come through. If you want to hit the ball over there, but the ball's actually coming over here, then try it, do it. I mean, you'll be the next David de Villiers.
Cool. So Abhay wants to know, question for Faye, what do you feel when it comes to the frequency of women's test cricket? I feel like more frequent tests will do wonders for the women's game.
Yeah, so I mean, test cricket is it's not a common occurrence in the women's game. So I think honestly, from a conditioning point of view, I feel like women's cricket, women want to play at a more high pace. I mean, T20 is taking off rapidly in the women's game. And also from a spectator's point of view, people, I mean, you get like diehard cricket fans who, I mean, I love watching test cricket, but you get people who don't necessarily want to watch 5 days of cricket, 3 to 5 days of cricket. So it's also the entertainment factor that you have to take into consideration. But I do think that more frequent tests being played internationally could be really good for women's cricket. I mean, even at provincial level, it could also do wonders for women because it's so much more technical than the high-paced games. So if women can learn the technicalities of test cricket and take that into their ODI and T20 game, then the rise in women's cricket could be a lot more rapid.
Mm. And what can we do to improve that? Because I mean, Dinesha, from my point of view, I think that it's a problem in the men's game as well. It's producing that 4-day type cricketers, longer format cricketers, because at the moment, at school level, the shorter format is basically the format that is promoted. And I think that's causing a little bit of problems with regards to developing these players to be able to play the longer format. But for women's cricket, especially, what can we do to actually start that going forward, to spark that?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because I'm a lover of Test cricket as well, and I can watch it all 5 days if it lasts that long. But it is tricky because there was time cricket in the under-19 national weeks. But what we've found is that it stopped girls, so they didn't want to score. So girls viewed it as just, we're going to block this out to get a winning draw or something like that. I can't even remember the rules now of the timed cricket, but it was something like that there. But it wasn't promoting good defense and score off bad balls. That's what it wasn't doing. And that affected our shorter formats of the game. But I think a solution perhaps will be structures. So we got to get structures in place. And like, 'cause at the moment, not every union has a high school league and a primary school league in the shorter formats. So now if we're going to talk Test cricket, so let's be really good at T20 and ODI before we can touch on that avenue. I mean, it's a very new, very, very new aspect of the game in terms of the ladies' game. But I don't see it happening now because of the variables I did mention. But I think once we start getting improvement there, maybe it's an avenue we can look at the future.
Okay. So, Lesego, we got you back again. Anything you want to add to that from what you've heard?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing that baffles me about Test cricket and not it being part of the women's game is that it's been part since when? The 20th, 19th century. It's been part of women's cricket. So it's bizarre that it got lost within the years and then it's non-existent anymore. So that's what I'm trying to understand. Where did it get lost? Why did it get lost? And how is it that it's not a solid structure within women's cricket, you know? So Dinesha, you reckon that we still have a long way to go until they can incorporate Test cricket within women?
Yeah, look, I think over the last, I'm going to say 10 years, I think we played 2 Test series, and the one Test series was just a one match. And I mean, if you just look at the times and when it started, I mean, let's take it like way back into time. I mean, isn't that how society grows? Because we want things quicker, we want things more efficient. You know, first it was a telegram, and now we've got a cell phone in our hand. You know, and that's just the pace of the game that's going. And I think, in my opinion, I just feel people just wanted something quicker, or people just wanted maybe something that wasn't maybe too long. I can't really talk about, you know, back in the days there. I think my history lessons, I need to sharpen that. But I'm just thinking about, even if you look at men's cricket at the moment, how everyone's just buying into T20 cricket because it's fast-paced, it's lots of entertainment. Obviously, there's money in the game, which is a massive factor, and it's shorter. So obviously, in terms of your body conditioning, although I think it's more intensity, and I think actually your body asks a lot from T20 cricket. But, you know, and I think that's just the way society is going and entertainment is going. And I think maybe that's where the women's game is going to struggle, because we're still trying to adapt to T20 and ODI in terms of selling out crowds in all parts of the world.
Okay.
So Dinesha, there's a question here from the fans over here that we can ask you. You've mentioned that you would like to speak about cricket in general and not only just male or female. How would you say one can go about achieving this? And then Lesego, you can get back into it again.
Oh yeah. I think the main thing for me is that it's a society change. You know, there's a saying that goes, nothing's impossible until it's done. You know, and platforms like this is a brilliant start as well. You know, and I just think it goes back to the point, it's got to be, I mean, we're in Women's Month now. Why we should celebrate women every day. We shouldn't just have one day to celebrate women. You know, and it's crazy. You know, I'll be honest, it's been 10 days into the month and I've had like 12 to 15 interviews. Why can't we have it on a random month as well? Why can't we appreciate women all the time? It goes back into cricket. I want to be in a position, or in a society where we're talking cricket, and then we can get into specifics of men and female. But obviously resources got to be put in, and it's going to take time. And I'm not just saying, what we want. Yes, we need to also put in results. We need to win World Cups, big series, so it will make sponsors and stuff come on board, and people buy in when big names are attached to your team. So it is a give and take, but I would love for it to start with every single person that's tuned in or that's going to tune in to watch this, is you to make a conscious effort to be, see, I told you I'm big on marginal gains, be 5% better in terms of knowing about women's cricket. And you know what, go find a post about someone and post it on your social page, because that's brilliant. That's how we can be better.
Yeah, social media is big. But also, I mean, like, sorry, just on that, even with, the names, I mean, we have the Momentum Proteas and we have the Standard Bank Proteas. So if we use those names, then, if somebody doesn't know about cricket, here's the Momentum Proteas, then maybe they'll take it upon themselves to think, oh, I thought it was Standard Bank Proteas, and then they Google that and they see, oh, it's actually the ladies team, rather than, the women Proteas or the women cricket team or the men's cricket team.
Yeah.
And it's little things like that, even just within our vocab, how we can change it and how we speak about the game.
And I think on my side, I can't help to think about my experience when I went to India, when I was touring with the Purchase Women in India last year. And the following that, the crowd, the stadiums were capacity. It was out, and that made me realize that the spectators were not there to watch women's cricket, that they were there to watch cricket, that there was no differentiation between male and female, that they had a natural love for the game. And if we get to a point where people just view the game as it is, not that men's and there's women's cricket, but they naturally follow the game because they love it, I think that's a space that, we would want to get to, and a space that, it would literally make me happy. And I think many people out there that follow the game, especially women, it get to the people just naturally love the game. It is. I think and it also comes to our side from a media liaison or media. If we look at social pages of the franchise games, right? I was looking at the Titans game, the Titans Instagram page. They have two separate pages to the women's and the men's side. So, and when you look at the pages, the women's side has about 200, 300 followers. When you look at the Titan page, Instagram page, they have over 12,000, 13,000 followers. A simple thing like merging the pages, know that when you advertise the woman, that it gets introduced to 12,000 people instead of just 200 people that are following the woman's page. So it's certain things like that needs to change, because then people will be introduced to young girls that are coming through the system, so we already know of them, and we already kind of earmark them for potentially playing for the Momentum Proteas women. So it's those things that we need to look into. These are just two examples of many examples that I have, but that needs to change, guys, if we really want to get women's cricket to the level in which we want to get it to, and where people can just view it as just cricket alone and not men's and women's cricket.
Yeah, that's 100% true. So I'm going to finish off with a couple of questions, the last few questions from the fans. Let's go to, which one do I like? Okay, this one. When Faye scored the first 100 in the Super League, how did Dinesha help you?
Mom. Oh gosh. Hi, Mom. I think we spoke about this previously, just with that transparency that I have with Dinesha as a coach, and also as a person. We can speak on a personal level, and that helps calm. I mean, I think you came to me that morning. I don't know what it was. You just came to me and you said you're going to score 100 today, and I was like, "Hi, yeah, we'll see."
Yeah, I did.
And then
I said you'll thank me later.
yeah, and did I thank you later that day? If I didn't, then I apologize and thank you.
I'm still waiting.
Yeah, I don't know, and it was, you just sort of guided me. I think you told me one thing before I went out to bat, and that was watch the ball out of the bowler's hand, not off the pitch. And that's exactly what I did. I told myself watch the ball out of the hand. And that's what I did, and it worked out on the day, I guess. Yeah, and I think just our team clicked, and that was the third match. And I think as a team we were clicking, so it was a lot more comfortable to just go out and bat. So because I knew I had that backing, so I could just express myself and play freely. Yeah, but Dinesha allowed that environment to happen. She made the team click because she said, play for each other, and I think that's what we did. We had the best time.
Mm-hmm. And lastly, to the both of you, Dinesha and Faye, what is your best advice to young girls to stay focused on the game and uplift the sport?
Faye?
Dinesha?
Okay, I'll go first.
You go first.
I think we're going to say it again. I think the passion is a massive thing. I think it's really important to love the game and love what you do, because it's so easy to get lost once incentives are provided, especially when it comes to contracts and certain leagues and that sort of thing. But if we're talking the younger girls, you know what, there will be people, I'm not going to say there's not, there will be people that try and maybe don't push you to follow your sport, or follow your passion. And that's the biggest discredit someone could do to you. But unfortunately, you do get people like that. I want you to be true to yourself. If you love the game, play the game. And it can be at any level. It can be for your province, your club, your school, whatever it may be, and play it with a massive heart. And at the end of the day, we're all not going to be Proteas, but this game does teach us a lot of values and a lot of lessons. And just to be in an environment where you can call, maybe it'd be 13 or 14 other people, your family, is one of, it's one of life's greatest blessings. And you know what, and love it and enjoy every single moment of that day. And then obviously, if you do want to take your game seriously, passion and motivation is going to go only up to a certain amount. So you got to try and upskill yourself and be a student of the game, because I'm massive on that day. And what I love about the sport is that it's never capped. You're always going to keep learning. And I think that's the beauty about the sport. Yeah, so just, passion, upskill, and always leave a better cricketer after a training session or after match.
Am I meant to follow that now?
Of course.
Yeah, I think just be consistent. It's that saying of be stubborn about your goals, but flexible about your method. And it's that consistency on and off the field. So if you can be consistent as a person, then generally the consistency will come on the field. You're going to have ups and downs, but just enjoy every second and every experience. And one of the things that I sort of say to myself, this is kind of personal, so I'm telling you guys this now, but as I walk onto the field, then I just sort of, give a word of thanks to be able to do what I love another day. I spent the day there, so it's just that gratitude for being able to do what I love, and it's just be stubborn. If you want to play cricket, play cricket. That's probably the advice that I would give to a young girl is, if somebody says no, then give them a reason why they shouldn't say no. Obviously, you know, in a nice way. You don't want to be rude about it. But yeah, if you want to do something, then go out and do it. I think we need more women like that in the world.
So I also want to thank our guests for coming on the show. Thanks a lot for all the insights that you've given us, and thanks for everything that you've told us about the game. And I'm so happy that we have people like you that are active within cricket to keep this game alive. I know we're going to bring you on again in the future. So thanks a lot for coming on, and thank you for the fans for obviously allowing them and asking them so many questions. We'll speak to you guys again soon.
Cool. Thank you so much for having us.
Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you.
Cheers.
So,
Khalid, Khalid,
yes.
I ask Faye a question. I had a question for Faye. I wanted to know what her biggest ambition is within the game, you know. But maybe we can ask her next time.
Okay. Do you want me to bring her on again?
Please do.
Okay. Faye, one more
Hi.
question for you before you say bye.
The show.
Okay.
Bring her.
My biggest ambition within the game.
Yes, please. I'd love to know.
Like skill wise,
Is it a
or
bit of
just kind of, I mean, like for me,
Yeah,
you know,
no,
my goal is to be the best in the
skill-
world, skill wise.
Yes.
My goal is to be the best in the world, and that's something that I'd like to think. At the moment, maybe it's a little bit of a scary goal, but I mean, I've heard that if it scares me, then I'm doing it right. So yeah, but definitely to be up there with the best in the world, because I mean, I have no reason to not have an ambition like that, because I'm surrounded by some of the best cricketers in the world here, and I'm lucky enough to play alongside them, and just influence people along the way as well positively, because I do believe in, you know, being a good person before a good cricketer. So I feel like if I can keep growing those values, then my cricket will grow with it. So hopefully, yeah. But that's about it.
That's
Is
amazing.
that cool?
I'm going to save your answer, and I will remind you 10 years from now. Hopefully, you would have reached the goals that you have set for yourself, and good luck.
Maybe, yeah, that'll be a very cool conversation to have. Thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
No problem. We'll speak to you again.
Cool. Cheers,
Cool.
guys.
See you.
Bye.
So Lesego, let's just end this conversation with some. Just give me some of the things that you've learned from this particular conversation, and what really stood out to you before we say bye to the fans.
Sure. There was okay. Well, outside of the fact that first, I did apologize for my network. It was so bad, guys. It was so bad. But let's hope that next time my network will cooperate and I will be able to, you know, sit throughout the entire conversation. But I think from what Dinesha spoke about in terms of her leadership and her coaching, firstly, it's very inspirational to have to watch Dinesha. You know, she not only she an under-9 coach, but also she was part of the Super League, and so that hasn't been done before. So it's her first. It's a first for Cricket South Africa, and so and you know, that's very encouraging, and you know, it gives young girls an opportunity to look up to someone and to see someone that's on that level from a coaching of things, and to also, you know, aspire for that. So, and for me to hear her coaching style and her leadership, and that she is someone that really invests in, you know, a person overall, and not particularly looking at the cricket side of things, but also just looking at the person holistically and fully wanting to invest in who the player is, I think is very encouraging, because you find a lot of coaches that just want you to get onto the pitch and perform. But for her to take a different angle to it and say, no, I'm for your well-being, I'm for your mental health, I'm for your skills development and your talent, let's work onto that, let's groom that, let's build onto that, that's very encouraging. So yeah, I mean, it was a great conversation. I saw her passion come out in terms of how the purchase women, kind of lost at the semifinals. But it's encouraging to also see that, they're very hopeful that we're going to be the very first, the purchase women are going to be the first, CSA team to walk away with the World Cup. So you better save this conversation, because when that happens, we're going to make this change, because we were the first to announce it.
Yeah, of course that
But
is.
it was a jump conversation. Thanks, hey Khalid.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you very much for coming on the show, guys. And thank you everybody out there for watching. We are going to get a better stream with Lesego next time. It's not her fault. Remember that these things happened. I've had the same issues with conversations that I've had. We will sort it out for next time to make sure that it's a lot better. And luckily, she said it on here that it is going to be a next time. So that's great. So thanks everybody for watching the show. Thank you everybody for tuning in. Click the notification bell, click subscribe, click like, click comment in the comment section below for all future videos. Of course, you need to click that notification bell, please. So help us out as much as possible. And we'll speak to you guys again soon. Happy Women's Day, and we'll see you again next time.